Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reset with Raven podcast. Here we have conversations with people who have been through some things, and they are sharing with us their process, journey, and experience in navigating change, chaos, and challenge. Today we have a real gem dropper, Kassandra Lauren Gordon, aka the London Black Jeweler. Welcome, Kassandra.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
I am excited to have you. Thank you so much again for being flexible. I have had to reschedule several times and she has just been on top of it. So I'm super excited that we are finally having this conversation. We'll just get right into it. When we first met, one of the things you said to me, and it stood out to me, and I made note of it because it made me think about my own life. You have 2 degrees that you don't use. Talk to us about that and your reset from schooling, education, formal training to what you do today.
Okay, so how I got the 2 degrees what I don't use, I don't think I was intentional enough. And when you come from a family who are on benefits or welfare and you're the first person to go to university, you don't have really mentors who've shown you how to do things. You just go with the wind. You're like, okay, I'll just go to uni or university or college in America. Okay, I'll just take this job because I didn't have no one. So with my 2 degrees, my first degree is a psychology degree. I did a master's in social research and I was going to do a PhD. And the only thing that stopped me doing a PhD is because I couldn't get funding. So in the UK, you need to be funded to do your PhD, usually. So I would have probably get 3 degrees, to be honest, if I didn't get the funding. So what made me be a jeweler is like something that I liked and I pursue it and I'm still pursuing it. Even there are peaks and valleys, I'm still doing it now. So I think that is the difference. I don't know if I should talk about all of the jobs which I've done unintentionally, but enjoyed. Do you want to get into that?
We can. If you want to talk about that right now, just in terms of
Cool.
your path or your journey, go for it. Because I think, you know what? I think it's helpful to hear like what led up to this. And I like to say there's no time wasted. I'm sure some of the things that you did unintentionally have helped build you and skill sets, connections, and maybe that made you even realize even more like, I really don't like this. So yeah, talk to us about that too.
So all the jobs that I've had is in the community. And that's really helped me to feel like more compassion in the community. So I've been a domestic violence worker, so helping people who've been affected by domestic violence and children. I'm a qualified youth worker, so helping young people going through difficult times. I've been a charity manager. I've been a volunteering manager. I've done corporate social responsibility things, so help like big companies do things in the community. I've worked for local government. So even though they're not all creative per se or help me in jewelry per se, it just helps me to how to deal with people and really has my community side of, because I feel like as a millennial, I cannot just do business by its own. I just cannot just make coins, okay? It's about values, reset about my values. I want to make sure when I do something, I 100% believe in it and try to leave the world a better place. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it is. That is my life.
No, that I appreciate you for sharing that. And that is something that more and more, I would say, companies in the world are recognizing that our generation, the millennial generation, things that matter are important to us. Like, what am I doing this for? And does what I'm doing align with my values? So I appreciate you for sharing that. I also wanted to talk about when you use the term intentional. That is huge. I feel like even just in my life, I'm just now getting to the place where intentionality is like I have an unrelentless focus when it comes to intentionality. What do you want? Why do you want it? What will it cost you? And what are you willing to do to get it? And I just now like zoning into that and being comfortable with what that is, what that looks like, and knowing what I'm gonna if there's a cost for what I want. There's a cost for what I want, and am I willing to work for it? And also too, any outside noise, unsolicited opinions, anything that doesn't serve me or anything that like blocks me from getting it, like it doesn't matter. I'm like moving all of that out of the way. To your point, as long as of course I need to be moral, have my vision, have my values. So I'm never operating outside of integrity. But when it comes to being intentional about what you want, I think that is so important, because if I look back on, like, I would say, I guess the 3 decades of my life, it feels like there's been a lot of kind of wishy-washy or listening to, outside opinions and noise and just going through the motion. And then when you do that self-reflection, you're like, okay, well, what has that got you? What did going through the motion get you? So I appreciate you for sharing, like, you are very intentional now in some of these other roles or opportunities. You learned something. You grew as a person. You learned how to work with people. Now you're intentional about what's important to you and how you are here on this earth and what you're supposed to do in terms of being of service. So I don't know anyone in the jewelry business. So when you and I connected, I was immediately like excited, because you hear about people and doing different types of entrepreneurship, and especially right now, there's a lot of online influencers, media, that type of thing. But this is like a tangible jewelry. So tell us, how did you even get into the jewelry business? Because you're the first that I've ever met that's like for real doing the thing, instead of like, for lack of a better word, like some trinkets on the arm.
That is true. So, a lot of these people, those celebrities or rich housewives, are like, I got a jewelry line. So I'm actually one of the rare breed people who knows how to make it. So I went, okay, so how do I start? So one day I was redundant or laid off for one of my charity jobs, and they really screwed me over, and it was just really horrible process. And I said, I'm going to do one thing. Well, just try one thing, one positive thing. So there was a course about how to make silver rings, like a silversmithing course in like a community college. And I just signed up, paid my money. And then I just felt, as soon as I was making these silver rings, I was like, wow, I'm sold. This is what I want to do. Everybody has an experience with jewelry in some way. People need jewelry in their lives. So like, oh, I could probably make some money, and I can sustain myself having a living making jewelry. So that's how I got into it. And then I just did short course after short course and learned and self-learning and, making jewelry in my living room. Like my living room was like, my dining table was there. And then my little jewelry bench was next to my dining table. Not very sanitary, but I just had to do it. I just had to learn how to make jewelry my own way.
I have a question. When you were making jewelry, did you have these other jobs that were sustaining you? Because I can't. I was about to be like a double dip. I can't not ask this. What were you doing to sustain yourself in the meantime?
So when I was going to jewelry school, I was actually working part-time. So I worked part-time going to jewelry school and did some short courses. So I did that. So I give you some, like, for 4 years, I was every Saturday and every Friday, I went to jewelry school. 4 years. So my weekends, like, I didn't see nobody. So when you say the cost, when you want to do something, you just got to do it, it is a cost. When I'm thinking about most of my 20s, when I should have been partying, living my best life, building connections, I was on the jewelry bench. So yeah.
Cost you something. A decade.
Huh?
Yeah. 20s. Yeah. So was it 4 years before you actually saw like resources or profit from your jewelry business, or did you make money along the way, or because you said 4 years of school?
Listen, right. When I was finished one of my short courses, I went to a trade show. So trade shows are very expensive. Like you pay X amount of thousands of pounds to show yourself to a concentrated audience in the business or in the industry and to potential buyers. And people are looking at me weird, like, what, you're still in your short course and you are platforming yourself on this like international stage? I'm like, I need to make this money back. I was not playing. So it's like when people say, oh, you make money on it, I wasn't like a little 16-year-old or 17-year-old. I had to make the money back somehow, or people to know me. I think sometimes when you study or you have an unconventional route into things, people only see things their way, or the teacher's way how to make jewelry. They're like, oh, you have to do this for years, or you have to be apprentice for years. I don't have the luxury of in my 20s in London paying rent with no rich husband, to take all this time just to like, oh, I just want to do my art and live my life. And no, like, how am I going to pay for the course? How am I going to pay for the rent? And how am I going to pay for these materials? Because I'm studying to be like a goldsmith. I'm working in gold, fine jewelry and gemstones and diamonds and stuff. So as I've always tried to hustle, in better words, along the way, like try to sell a little bit on the market on the weekend. So like I'll go to jewelry school on the Saturday, and on the Sunday I'm in a market trying to sell something, or try to talk to a stockist or try to talk to a store like, hey, can you, because I didn't have no option. It's self-funded,
That's a really good point, and didn't have the luxury of just waiting to make money. Very interesting. It's really like you had to learn by doing as well.
And it's very expensive,
It's very expensive. When I think about the last 2 years for me, when I had leaped into entrepreneurship and not having access to certain funding, not knowing certain people, not knowing the right people, and it is very expensive. A lot of expensive mistakes and errors that I'm like, oh my gosh, had I known this, or had I known this person, had I had been able to pay for such and such course, or been able to go to a particular conference. But to your point, those things cost money too. So when you're learning by doing, you're also potentially spending a lot of money in that area as well. I appreciate you for sharing that. One of the things too, you said about like growing up in lack and knowing that you had to hustle. Did that impact, or how did that impact you becoming an entrepreneur or a businesswoman?
Right. So if I'm being honest, if I'm allowed to be honest, I have to work through this through therapy, right? Like mental health, well-being. Because I think in the past, X amount of years, if you asked me about 4 or 5 years ago, I would have a bit more resentment, saying like, oh, it's not fair, or I have to work so hard, blah, blah, blah. But then I've learned, doing a lot of therapy and a lot of personal well-being work and personal development. No one owes me nothing. I have to do it. I have to say the black word, sorry. I don't know if it's a similar thing where you are, but usually a person of color is not allowed to make mistakes. You can't make mediocre stuff. It's either all or nothing. You go hard or you go home, because I don't have a safety net. I don't have a mom and dad with inheritance. Like, oh, it's okay if my, God forbid, anything happens to my parents, I've got a house to inherit. There's no generational wealth, okay? I was brought up on welfare. You know what I mean? I was brought up all the way to 18 on welfare, right? So I don't have no safety net. So I don't see an alternative. This is just not me trying to be anxious or me trying to be like, yeah, Gary V, I'm trying to give you a hard nut life. I've got no safety net. So it's me. Everything what I do, all the decisions I've made, is led me up to this point. And what I'm doing now hopefully lead me to the future. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'd have no option just to hustle. I have to find ways to survive. Unfortunately, and hopefully, if things pay off in the next couple of years, I'll move from survivor to thriver, So hopefully,
You did answer my question, and it's a phrase that I've had to repeat to myself and work through, and still am working through, that no one's coming to save me. To your point, there's no inheritance. There's no wealthy grandparents that left me anything. It's on me. And it's almost like, what's that phrase? You eat what you kill. So no, you definitely answered my question, and it sets a perspective for people that are like, oh well, because we can whine about it. Like, nobody left me anything, nobody set me up, and that may be true. Two things can be true. It's another thing. I just had a conversation with a good friend the other day. Two things can be true at once. Nobody left me anything. I gotta hustle.
You have to make your own
But it
opportunities.
still is what it is. It still is what it is, and what I'm actively working on, like I could choose to be angry about it, be upset about it, and wallow in it, or I could choose to channel that energy into working and to putting one foot in front of the other, and getting myself together. And it's like we have choices, and choose wisely. So definitely a great point. I want to talk about too, thinking about challenge and struggle. What are some of the challenges that you face as a Black woman in the jewelry business?
The jewelry, I just want to say this. The jewelry business is hard for anybody. Even if you have support. A lot of people, I don't know in the US, but in the UK, it's a very heritage business. Meaning, like, usually people are in it, they have their family business. They've been doing it for years, so it's usually passed on, or they know somebody, or they started when they was 15, 17 in like a workshop, and they worked the set way up, right? I came in jewelry standards quite late. So I came in my like mid-20s, where if you were an apprentice, where you work under a master jeweler, you start when you're 16 and you leave when you're 19. So imagine a 16-year-old, and when I started, they would have 10 years of experience, when I came into the jewelry business. So, didn't know anything. So I just want to say that. But because there's not many Black jewelers or known in the business, it's hard for doors to open. So when I say I have no choice, when I was trying to get jewelry jobs, people wouldn't hire me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So my name is Kassandra Lauren Gordon. So in England, it sounds very white, very European. Thank you, slave masters or whatever. But they'll say the job is there, but when I turn up, they said the job is not there. So I had no other alternative but to go to entrepreneurship. The challenges and the nuances is the lack of like barriers, sometimes racism in certain jobs. Sometimes people accuse me of stealing in, I go to, when I first started, I used to go to get stones. So I picked my gemstones, and I had this like £8 stone. Well, not £8, like pounds in British pounds. So like a $10, I don't know, $8 stone, right? It's not that. And the woman was, I'm going to risk my whole reputation over like an $8 stone. It's just like, and people still remember that. I remember I was chatting to someone who used to work in the shop. I said, remember when this woman accused you of stealing? And that was like nearly like 6-8 years ago. Can't remember. So those kind of things to a Black person is just like, that's traumatizing. There's someone who was in the shop, remember when this woman accused me of something which I didn't do. And even the people in the shop knew I didn't do it. But, those type of microaggressions and racism and stuff like that. And I like, when I go into a jewelry shop, I make sure I don't have no big bags. I make sure I'm like, everyone can see what I'm doing, because I don't want people to say this Black girl's stealing, a Black woman is stealing. Trade shows, sometimes people think they don't, they like, oh, did you make it? Oh, good. I didn't know, lots of microaggressions in the jewelry trade. And when you stand your ground, sometimes if you get something made, like, and it's not a good quality, I stand my ground. People try to make me out like I'm difficult, and I'm not. Like, if you pay for a service, you want it to get done. So those type of things, people take the mickey out of, and a lot of racial undertones, sometimes. But the thing is, I don't want to make it all doom and gloom. Through, what did Oprah or someone say? Through, to overcome prejudice is through excellence. So you always, for me, like, I am what I am. I stand my ground, but I always feel I have to overcompensate. If someone's being rude, or I always feel like, yeah, I'll stand my ground, but I always like show up. I always have to build trust. I have to, build extra rapport. I have to show that I'm spending X amount of money. And it gets a bit exhausting at time. Well, I guess my white counterpart doesn't always have to do that, But it is what it is. It's, it's something that you love and something what you do, you just got to roll with it. There's no point of complaining. I highlight the issues and then I move on. But there's no point complaining. It is what it is. But, I still love the trade, and people have been really nice to me, and people have gave me a chance. I'll give you one quick story just to be succinct. I sent out about 200 like CVs, about one to like, even to get like a volunteer job. I volunteer like 2 days a week just to get into the business, just to understand the business, so I don't make so much expensive mistakes, which I still did, right? And this one guy, white guy, invited me into his workshop and introduced me to people. And it wasn't for that guy called Patrick, I wouldn't have known so much today. And just takes one guy, have a 30 minutes coffee with him and take me to his workshop. So if just people just open doors and just, it makes a big difference. Just open a door. That's all you have to do. Just open a door. I find that so important. It's about who you know. Everyone's like, oh my God, just gotta work hard. Sorry, I don't want to be offensive with my fake American accent. I'm just mimicking people on YouTube, all these gurus and stuff like that. But it's about who you know, It's about who you know. Like, if you don't know stuff, you don't know, you're basically, I'm telling you, man, a lot of it's about who you know. And I'm just working on that. I'm working on that.
It's a great point. I'm glad you're speaking on it. Thank you again for your transparency. When we talk about opportunity, I can relate to and I have stories of my own that I won't go into today, where when I came to do something or I applied for something, I was grilled. Well, what makes you think that you can do it? Or what are your qualifications? When coming in the door, I was more qualified than people that already are in the roles. I'm more degreed, more experienced than all the people that are in the roles. But when it came to me, when they saw me and they saw skin color, that type of thing, it was all of a sudden numerous questions. Well, how did you do this? Or how did you do that? Versus I'm able to stand on my own 2 feet. I have the education, the skill set, the training, and I came in the door more qualified than other people. So it's definitely a great point. And I'm glad you brought up to this whole work hard myth, do the work hard. I'm not saying, I think everyone, do what you can, put your best foot for it. Absolutely. But, it came up, and I think it was over the past month and a half ago, I think it was Kim Kardashian that talked about her success. And she was like, just work hard. And there was a lot of backlash, and there was some kind of half-hearted apology that was given. I don't know if it was half-hearted. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe that's me casting my own opinions. But it was a comment about, well, I didn't mean any harm. I was just telling people to work hard, and that that's how my family has been able to create a lot of success. And I'm not going to at any point knock their success. That family has created so much wealth, generational wealth for their family, and their name now means something globally. However, it goes without saying that when you come into something with a head, I would say multiple heads advantage over other people for various reasons, from your parents' background, from their education, their status, their fame, all types of things. I mean, your stepdad was on the Wheaties box, and your father, one of the most famous people in the O.J. Simpson trial. Your mother's a powerhouse. All those type of things. Your relationships with Paris Hilton, those type of contexts, and to say that I got all of this because I worked hard, it came across disingenuous. And it came across as not laying all the cards on the table to say, yeah, no, I recognize I come from privilege. So I appreciate you for sharing that. And I'll try not to go off on a tangent about that because I have a lot of, thoughts and as what do the young people say, receipts when it comes to that. And so there's definitely a lot of obstacles that people of color, Black people, face when they're in certain industries. And I can only imagine in the jewelry industry, because correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking it's probably something very challenging to even break into, because it's like, as you said, who do you know? Who's your family? What's that name mean?
Absolutely. You summed it really, really well.
Yeah. So I love what you're doing, and I love that you're pushing forward in spite of the discrimination that you're experiencing, and because it sounds like you have a passion for this, and this is something where you're supposed to be in. It's an area you're supposed to be in. I want to talk about your connection and how your identity is very important to you when it comes to your art. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I live who I am and try to put it in my craft. So I'm from the African diaspora because I'm brown or Black, but I come from a Jamaican heritage. My parents are Jamaican. My grandparents were asked to come to this country, to Britain or UK, after the Second World War, because Jamaica was part of the British colony. Blah 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 blah. I can tell you the whole history, but being in the UK is and being Black is different than other places, because you're not really English or British, but you're not really Jamaican, and you're not really African. Even wearing my African prints, Africa. So where do I fit in? So it's like navigating through this space. Who I taught to, how I produce my art. It's like navigating all these multicultural facets into one bit. So that's how I'm looking at it, and also accepting. I think I'm grieving a bit. I'm in the process of mourning and grieving, understanding some of my past, because how I got here is lost. I've done a lot of genealogy work this year, and done the ancestry, like DNA stuff, like even the African one where they can trace my mom, whatever, and it's I just accept that some of it's lost. I won't get as much information as much I want because of the history. So how do I navigate that? What legacy I want to, if I do have kids, what do I want to pass on from my side? It's a bit not open. Some of it's just lost. So yeah, how do I deal with that? So sorry to be so morbid, but that is life. But there is a celebration, because I feel a lot of Black people, a lot of Black creatives, you have grit, you have resilience, and that culture capital. You can create anything. Black people can create something with $1 or £1 and make it look so flashy and make it look like $1 million. So I'm so glad to be part of this culture where you just gotta have this resilience and just make the most out of life. So I thought that's where I'm at.
When I'm thinking about resilience, it makes me think about another question. What emotions or feelings or statement do you want wearers of your jewelry to have?
It changes from time to time. Protect your vision. Protect your vision. Protect your vision, because especially this couple of weeks, people have not believed in things that I wanted to do. And as a creative or as a person, if it's a piece of jewelry, something that you have, I see it as an emotional memento or snapshot of your life when you wear a piece of jewelry. it tells something in time and it can transcend it in time. You can always pass it on. And no matter what you have, if you create your own piece of jewelry, you design it, or you buy it ready made, protect ever what you're doing in the future. Protect your vision, protect your creativity, protect your vision, because no one will go harder for it than you. No one will believe in it more than you. And sometimes you just got to pay your dues and you just got to show people until people believe in it. So I hope that makes sense.
Protect your vision. What's distinctive, or what do you believe sets your artistry or your jewelry apart?
It's very conceptual. I don't just make pretty things. Everything has a meaning to it. Strong storytelling, very infused with strong storytelling. And it's something that people can really connect to. I think the connectability of my jewelry with people in this day and age, it's not just, oh yeah, influencers wearing it and you must have it. It's like everything is like wearable art, socially engaged art. Yeah.
Socially engaged art. That brings me to your IG headline says award-winning ethical conceptual jeweler. What does that mean?
Well, I won an award for a jewelry piece which I made last year. So in the UK we have like the jewelry Oscars. It's a long name, but it's called the Goldsmiths Design Council Awards. So for high excellence in the jewelry for the UK and Europe, it's like the jewelry Oscars. So I won the highest award called the Gold Award for one of my designs. So that was really cool, and it was based on diversity, and so it was like an ethical kind of piece what I made. So that was really proud of that. So that's why award winning. And I get other awards for different other things for my jewelry and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's why it's there. Mm-hmm.
And the ethical part,
ethical, cool. So what I do, so ethical means so much things. So ethical, like how I try to live the jewelry business as a standard, and also the materials what I use. So we can go into a big debate about talk about blood diamonds. And so what I can do with customers, or what I can do myself, I try my best to be very ethical as much as I can. Like where, ask the right questions from my suppliers. Like, where do I supply from? Like, what country it's from? Use recyclable precious metals like fair trade gold, or use recycled gold when I can, recycle silver when I can. Try to reuse gemstones. If someone gives me a gemstone, I can repurpose it. Those type of things. And also as a jewelry brand, try to be as ethical and transparent as I can as well. Just be honest to, as much as I can. It's not 100% clean in the jewelry industry, but I can only do the best I can. And if I'm honest about it and be transparent about it, people can make their own informed decisions.
I like that. Make your own informed decisions about the jewelry. Okay. And where it's sourced from. Love that. Yeah. So someone I believe is listening that is interested in the jewelry business, or has a spark of interest that they may want to explore. What advice would you give them just getting started?
Know your audience and know how to market, or get someone to help you to market. Because when I first thought doing jewelry, I thought, I'm gonna be at my jewelry bench, make, and just take it to a market or take it to a shop and people will like it. No, I actually make less jewelry now than I did when I first started. So what I'm concentrating on is the business. You need to know the business side. And I was like, no, I don't want to do business. I don't want to do spreadsheets. It's boring. And I'm looking at my bank account. I'm like, no, I need to know spreadsheets. I need to know the business. I need to know how much things cost, especially when you're working in gold, because so you can have the mist of Instagram. People like, I'm just at my bench.
Where do you even get the first set of supplies? Like, where, for someone who's even before thinking about the business model, but where do they even get the initial pieces set up? How does that work?
You can, I don't know where in the US, but I think in New York, there's jewelry quarters, right? Or you can just go online, but there's jewelry quarters. So if you want bullion, in the UK we call it bullion. If you want the piece of gold, or you can say how much grams you want or whatever, and you can just buy it from a bullion merchant. So there's a few jewelry quarters in the UK, but what's most famous ones are London is called the Hatton Garden. That's the jewelry quarter, and then there's the Birmingham jewelry quarter. So just type jewelry quarter, whatever country you are in, and you'll find a setup like that. But I would say to you, do your competitor analysis, see where you want to position yourself in the market, and know the business side. I mean, spreadsheet, what is your unit cost? What margins are you going to get from a gemstone? Do you think, oh yeah, people always have say, oh yeah, diamonds, Kassandra, you make so much money from that. No, I don't. You make a really small margin on diamonds because diamonds are so expensive. You can't just times it by 3 or do a big markup or do a keystone markup. So, pricing is, and the thing with jewelry, one more thing, so I don't be negative, but the jewelry prices fluctuates a lot. So that's what I'm saying, your spreadsheets are your best friend, because gold goes up and down. So I have to, and also the prices of diamond goes up and down, like weekly. Gold goes up and down in price twice a day. There's in the UK. So there's so much fluctuation. So, I don't want to be like, you can just do it and you could just live your life and just make. Making is great. I love the making, but as I got older and doing this, I'm getting more business side and working with partners to help me to make the jewelry as well. So I had to make the sacrifice. What do I want to? Do I want to grow the business, or do I want to? So I had to be more business than I wanted to be.
Okay.
That's
and I'm looking forward to seeing more and more of your jewelry. One of the things you said to me when we first met that I remember too is that you see a lot of celebrities and athletes wearing jewelry, but do you know if it's from a Black jeweler? So I'm looking forward to everybody, following your journey, keeping up with you, figuring out how they can get a piece of your jewelry. So before I ask my final question, let all of our listeners and our YouTube viewers know where they can find you and your jewelry online. So
KLG Jewelry, www.klg Jewelry. So it's the British spelling. So it's JEWELLERY, the British spelling.com. So it's just my name, Kassandra Lauren Gordon. That's where I am, or Instagram, KLG Jewelry. That's my jewelry business. That's where you can find me where I am, my bespoke side, my customization side, where I do custom jewelry, and my ready to wear. So my own collections, my own brand. Yeah. Support people, support the jewelers out there, because question were you saying about the Black, these rappers and stuff spend their advances on all these jewelers, famous jewelers and stuff. And sometimes these rappers don't even know if it's real or not, what they're spending their ice on. There's so much reports looking like there's so much fraud, they spend their advances on millions, and just but there's so much people who can give them a really good quality service. And are they supporting their own? Because other communities are benefiting from, all these athletes and musicians spending lavish amount of money on jewelry with other communities, and there's people in their backyard who can help them and really want to support them and give them the best quality. So there you go. I love that. Support the people right in your backyard. Support home base first. Absolutely. And you have had, it sounds like, several resets in career, in addition to even in your own business, and realizing you need to focus on business and focus on marketing. So our final question is, what is the greatest lesson you've learned in your reset journey? It's going to be cliche. Believe in yourself and protect your vision. So I think it's similar. Believe in yourself. Seriously. Because no one's going to fight hard for you. It won't make sense for other people. If I go to my mom or I go to someone who's in a 9-to-5 and I say, yeah, I'm going to do this jewelry thing and I'm going to go to define, they're going to be like, they're going to automatically think of the risk. And because they haven't done it, they're going to tell you to get out of it. So I'm really into, prototyping, rapid prototyping. Show someone a proof of concept first. Do a little tiny thing first to get someone, if you need to get someone to get on board. and then do it. Don't just say ideas to people who you don't trust or they don't get it, because they'll just tear it apart and then you feel bad about it. So believe in yourself and protect your vision. That's it.
And that's a mic drop and a definite way to end this conversation, because that is phenomenal. People that haven't done it before, they can't make heads or tails with it. It doesn't make sense to them, and maybe it's not supposed to make sense to them. And you don't need that misdirecting you. And to your point, it makes you feel bad. It makes you lose confidence when people are around you knocking you down, and they may be well intended, but it's not their vision, so they won't get it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Kassandra. This was wonderful. All right, everybody. No one owes me nothing. Protect your vision and believe in yourself. Thank you again to Kassandra, to everyone watching and or listening. We can't grow this podcast without you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button now and share this episode with someone in your community. Even listen to it or watch it again. There were so many jewels and gems dropped in this episode that it definitely warrants a second listen. As always, remember, you are not stuck, trapped, or defeated. A reset is always available to you.